I'd like to welcome everybody out here to our council meeting for June 4th, 2020. Typically, we start at 7 p.m. I apologize that we're starting a little late here tonight. We had a very good work meeting that we had some topics we needed to discuss, and it took a little bit longer, so I do apologize. As typical with our meetings, we like to start them with the call to order by the pledge, and then a prayer, and each month we kind of assign those to a different person, and this month it's Councilmember Dave Thomas's turn, so I'm going to turn the time over to him and allow him to introduce who he's asked. So go ahead.
Pledge of Allegiance will be handled by Don Wilhelm, and the prayer will be taken care of extemporaneously because somebody didn't show up, which will be me.
So
All please rise and remove your caps. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, as we come before Thee at this time, we ask that Thy Spirit be upon us as we go about the business of this great city, as we go about and do the things which are important for the citizens of this city. We pray that we may always keep them in mind, that we will do the things which we feel that are right, and we will do them to the best of our ability. We're grateful for this great land and the many, many blessings which we have because we are here. We pray that we may continue to receive those blessings. We pray that we may continue to do right things. And as we come to this council meeting again, we pray that we do right things. And this I say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
okay. Thank you, Dave, for conducting that for me. Council, with this, we'd also need to have a motion to approve some minutes, so I'll look for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the Layton City Council work meeting of February 20th, the Layton City work meeting of March 5th, the Layton City work meeting of April 16th, and the council meeting from May 7th, 2020 as written.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Any discussion at all or corrections?
None, but I just have a quick question. In the one on the 20th, you talked about tours of the sewer and the water or the Wasatch Integrated. Mm-hmm. Now that things are getting kind of a little bit back to normal, can we maybe proceed on doing that in the near future?
Mm-hmm. I've already addressed that. So it's up to, they're going to let us know. Okay, thank you. So council, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Say aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 2, which is our municipal events. And certainly anyone here is welcome to make those, but typically we have our Parks and Rec liaison kind of announce, since they usually have the most going on. So Mr. Thomas, do you have any announcements there?
Well, like in work meeting, I just mentioned that things are open, things are happening. I went around the other day and looked at what was going on. The pool was full but not crowded. It was, it looked fine. I went down to the Ellison Park. Skateboarders were doing good. I drove by and saw the splash pad. It was fine. I watched a ball game down there, and everybody was, they were decent. Not everybody 6 foot apart, but they were fine. There was no, huge. I just felt like people are being respective of things. It wasn't, And so, kudos for, for the departments that are doing things, and not that all of them aren't, but, I always feel sorry for the parks guy that's cleaning everything. I mean, that's, but anyway, yeah, that was good.
And they are cleaning the playground equipment
Yeah.
twice daily? Okay, okay, yes, we're actually cleaning the playgrounds daily, and they do have a chemical that actually lasts for like 12 to, actually it's geared towards 24 hours, right? But we say 12 hours as far as how long that chemical will last on there to keep the germs down. And then, of course, our restrooms are open, and they're cleaning those twice daily as well. So, I appreciate everything that our folks are doing, certainly here in the municipal building as well. I mean, there's been an extensive cleaning and a lot of extra effort going into making sure that we keep all you guys safe. So I appreciate that. Any other announcements? Okay, very good. Dawn, did you want to mention the bingo?
Yeah, so we have a coalition that's just getting started. It's called the Communities That Cares. And if you go to Facebook and do a search for Layton Communities That Cares, it'll bring up, they're doing bingo on a weekly basis, and the subject matter changes every week. And the instructions are on there as to how to play the game. And then you submit your card and have a chance to win gift cards to local businesses and stuff. But this week, which was Friday and Saturday, was supposed to be our birthday celebration. The bingo card this week is on the centennial celebration. And what it has people do, just real quickly, is like, to walk or bike one of Layton's many paved trails, or learn about the Layton Sugar Company and the sugar beet industry. So there's some history things. There's some, get out and visit the memorials, and complete your census if you haven't already. Those kinds of things. All focused around Layton specific. And one of them is even find out about Layton's first mayor, female mayor sitting right here. So lots of good things on it.
I didn't know that was on there. Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, as mentioned, unfortunately, we couldn't celebrate the centennial this past weekend like we had planned, but we do have other events going on, and I really highly recommend everybody to follow the Facebook page, get on with the Parks and Recs Department. There is some continuing efforts that will be going on, such as our T-shirt contest. In fact, today they gave away the gift for our, let's see, it would have been the maize contest. Sorry, I had to get my months here straight. And thank you to Lifetime Products. I know that they were the ones that put together that basket, so I want to thank you very much for doing that. But in addition to the T-shirt contest, I'd like to mention that we have our time capsule. We can now start accepting items there. So anybody who would like to contribute items for the centennial time capsule, which means that we would like you to put together anything, whether it be, it's kind of, it's opened. It's really open. This is something that's not going to be available to view for the next 100 years. So you got to think down the road. We want to really tell our story today as far as what our life was like. So I really encourage you to kind of just put some fun stuff in there. There is a form you'll need to fill out, and you can come here to the city center, and the secretarial staff will help you fill that out. And certainly, the committee will determine what all items go in there, and if you put your phone number on there, and if it's too large to go in, or if it's something that won't work, then certainly, we'll make sure you get it back. But anyway, I just want to kind of mention a few of those things. And of course, something I'm very passionate about is the metal art. And I'd really like to see everyone kind of contribute to that. And the purpose of the metal art is to create a sculpture that's going to be left here permanently, so we can always view it. But the neat thing about that metal art is whatever metal you contribute, let's say it might be your dad's wrench, or in my case, maybe it was my mom's metal doll stand. that those things can be welded into a piece of art, and we can then tell our story. We can tell our kids, we can tell your grandkids that, hey, that was Grandpa's piece of, was his tool, or gee, that disc there came off of the Day Farm, perhaps, you know. I mean, it's just kind of fun that this is the type of thing that's going to really show what Layton is all about. It's a representation of our history and going forward. So to me, it's a fiber that we're putting together that represents all of us. So based upon that, I would certainly like to, if we could, have Mr. Price come up to the pulpit over here. And I'd like to move into our verbal petition and presentations at this time. And the purpose of this, for me calling Mr. Price up, is, as I've mentioned about the centennial, we've had a committee that was formed well over a year ago that has really put forth a lot of effort, a lot of fantastic ideas, and they had so many different things that they were going to do, and quite frankly, we couldn't celebrate those. So I wanted to make sure these folks were recognized for their efforts and to let them know that we still need you. We need you to stay on that committee. We need you to help us, because we have made a determination on behalf of the city that we're still going to celebrate. We will celebrate next year, because we did not want to do a small celebration. I mean, 100 years is a big deal, and so we postponed it until next year, and we will fulfill that promise there. And so with that, Mr. Price, let's go ahead and acknowledge some of these folks, but perhaps maybe I need to start with one individual to begin with.
Please.
Okay. Many of you don't know, but there's a gentleman in our community that has been very instrumental in helping us behind the scenes in a lot of different ways and over many years. And I appreciate his help. And I think it would just be nice if you guys all realize, I mean, in fact, some of the people on the Centennial Committee might not even know this individual or realize all that he's done in the past. But Mr. Lewis Lasser, if you could, I'd like you and your wife to come over here to the pulpit, and I'd like to present you with I'm going to present him with a certificate here, and just so I'll read it from here, and it's just so that it says, "We hereby express our sincere appreciation to Lewis Lassiter, graphic designer with Symbol Arts, for your outstanding creativity, dedication in assisting Layton City with the creation of our challenge coin in honoring Layton City's centennial, which was May 24th, 1920 to May 24th, 2020. And I don't know if we probably can't zoom in on this, but we'll make sure this is available. But what we'd like to do tonight, Lewis, if you don't mind, I'll come over there and I'll present this to you. And I want to say thank you, sincerely thank you, on behalf of the Layton City Council, on behalf of the staff, as well as the committee, and certainly everyone that's involved here. I mean, you've got a great creative mind, and we appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mayor. We thought it would be fun and appropriate to have the designer of this beautiful coin present it to the committee members tonight. And so we are fortunate that some of them are able to be here. And those that are, we would like you to come up front and receive a coin, and then maybe get a socially appropriate elbow bump from Mr. Lester, as well as the council members. And so if we could start with Ms. Sarah Beckstead. Sarah has been with us the entire distance. We've been planning the celebration for over a year, almost a year and a half. And we appreciate all of these people.
Okay, we're going to have you go up there. Like a parade.
Thank you. Don, if you would.
You stubbed me.
Don Brandvold has been a longtime supporter of the city and has helped with this. Don Wilhelm. Don, if you join us, he has helped us the entire time, and Don is the co-conspirator of this coin. He's been the one that's worked with Mr. Lester the entire time. Thank you. Let's see, I see C.J. Benson, if you would. CJ again has helped us the entire time, and we're grateful for all of this. It's such an effort. They take time out of their lives to come and help us, and we appreciate that. We have Carol Morgan, if you could join us. She's been a strong help the entire time and has helped us with the museum's efforts, and we're grateful for all of that.
So if you got this down? Now you get to go up there. You got to take the
Carol.
walk.
I think that's everyone that was here this evening.
Bill, what's that?
We'll get Bill in just a sec. But we also wanted to recognize Debbie Comstock and committee co-chair Joyce Brown, Tessa I always say that, Vashel, and Nikki Weeks. They couldn't make it this evening, but they've been a huge help for us. I'd also like to thank Mayor Petrol. She's been there from day one, and also Clint Morris as a council member on this committee. Thank you for your help and support. But I'd be extremely remiss if I didn't thank our staff, our Parks and Recreation staff. And to start with, our co-chair, Michelle Howard, who is our recreation superintendent. And she has been the one that has kept this committee going and been a force of good for us. It's tough to supervise employees. It's even harder to supervise volunteers, even when it's an excellent group of volunteers. And Michelle has done a wonderful job at that. Would also like to have Michelle McMillan and Bill Sanders come up. They have both been instrumental. I've often said that between the two Michelles in our department, there's not a thing we can't come up with. Bill, if you could, just turn around for a sec. Bill Sanders was one of the first people I met when I came to work for the city 18 years ago, and he has been an outstanding museum coordinator for the city. And we are so sad that he has turned in his resignation. He's ready to retire, and he will be leaving us on the end of the month. But I thought this would be an opportunity to just tell him thank you and to let him know how much we've appreciated everything that he's done. And our city is better off because of Bill.
You know, Dave, does this work? Oh, I think I worked with everybody, all the curators. Is that what they call them? Yeah, docent. That was the other word that he taught me. But, and by far, he's the best. By far. He's done so much for the city, it's hard to,
And
say things. Yeah.
I'll get in a little bit of trouble for this, but Liz, would you stand up? Liz has been with us every step of the way and has supported Bill and been an outstanding volunteer at the museum as well as his wife. Thank you. I'd like to also recognize Jay Clark. He was unable to attend tonight, but he's helped us through the entire process as well. He's our amphitheater director. Thank you. Thank you for helping us give these coins out. Please. Hey, take one for your wife.
So
Yeah,
again,
give
I
him-
just want to
Give
say
him two.
thank you so much to all of you folks. I mean, I've sat in every one of those meetings, and there's a lot of great ideas. And in addition to this, I know that when I mentioned the time capsule, so we had a special one just for the kindergarten kids. And today I actually got one of the first packets. I know that they've been, Bridget Gerard, she's a school board, and she's actually been working with them. But one of the teachers brought in their packet that's just for the kindergarten kids, because we made a special time capsule for them that they'll be able to open up when they graduate. And I got to tell you, it was rewarding to see that. So I'm kind of excited about a lot of this good effort that all you guys have gone to. And I know, Mr. Wilhelm, you've done a good job on communicating the best you can. And I know we didn't mention the store, but we do have the store that's a lot of fun items that you can order. And in fact, anybody online who would like one of those commemorative coins, that they are available for purchase. So again, just go to the Parks and Rec site for that. So thank you very much.
Mayor,
Yes.
I don't know how to say this in the right way, but can you just mention the governor's thing?
Oh,
I mean, and the only reason I mention that is because Don Wilhelm here, I think he
crafted it.
kind
You
of
have
crafted it, and then he obviously had to give it to the lawyers to add big words to it. But no, I thought it was a great thing, and but if you could explain it, that would be nice. You know more about it than I do.
You did a great job there. The only thing
Well,
that you
yeah,
left out was the date. So as many of you probably saw, hopefully on social media, we were able to launch the video that had Governor Herbert, who had declared Sunday, May 24th of 2020 as Layton City's Day for the state of Utah. And it's a great declaration. If you go through and read it, it really spells out what Layton is about and about the beauty we have here and the people, and as well as the history. So, thank you for reminding that. And in addition to that, I know that we're taking a lot of time here, but Mr. Sanders has put in, thank you, Bill. I know you've done a lot for the city, but we had the lecture series planned, and our curator, Bill Sanders, had gone through and created each one of those series, and I know that we had talked about getting those online, as well as I think we may end up still trying to have those down the road. I mean, like I said, it's like everything else. It's fluid right now. It's subject to change. We're just adapting, but thank you for putting in all that effort and helping educate everyone on the history of our city. So, okay, I think we better move on. But thank you again. Okay, that takes us to our consent items now. So, excuse me, I forgot. Before I move on to our consent items, typically following our verbal petitions, we actually have a time for citizen comments. So if anyone has any items that they'd like to bring before the council, now is the time that you can come up. You're welcome to come to either side of the pulpit here. Please state your name, your address, and then the purpose of your concerns or suggestions. Again, it's 3 minutes, but certainly if it's an item that's already on the agenda, in particular, if it's a part of our public hearing, then you're welcome to wait until that point to be able to speak. But now is the time to go ahead and share your ideas. So please step forward.
My name is Blake Leanelli. I work for Waste Management, and I wanted to come out tonight and say thank you, Mayor, Council,
Thank you, Blake. I appreciate that.
Lee and Ellie. Yep. Thank you.
Next.
My name is Camille Anderson. I live at 957 Sapphire Drive here in Layton. I have been highly encouraged by the police department on Officer Hill to please come and speak with the city council members. I'm not a public speaker, so we've lived in our home for over 30 years and never had issues with our neighbors on the north side as far as the property lines go. We live in a cul-de-sac area, and it is an odd shape how I guess it's divided. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had new neighbors move in, and you know, sometimes you can bond with people, other times the hair on the back of your neck it just doesn't work. I've stayed away, I kept my distance, I haven't been rude, I haven't talked to them or anything. Well, Monday night, I noticed they were putting up this small 2.5, 3 foot plastic fence that goes this way and this way where our property lines connect. And it blocks the access to our driveway and our capability of getting our vehicle in and using our trailer, pulling it in and out. I tried to go over and talk to him about it and ask him if they could be just a little bit more considerate so that we were able to come and go. And they were very arrogant and told me that I was a rude person, and they wouldn't answer, my questions. They were very evasive about it. And the male neighbor pulls out his phone and he tells me he's going to call the cops on me. Fine, you go ahead, call the cops. And then he tells me that he knows the zoning officer and he is really close to the zoning officer. And we're like buddies. And I'm like, okay, so is this a power play? Are you trying to intimidate me? This is bullying, this is harassing. And so the officers come, and I'm like, well, what does the zoning officer have to do with you putting up this little fence that's being destructive? Or, I can't even think of the word, sorry. So we talked with an Officer Myers and explained, what I explained what I tried to do. And the other officer went over to the neighbor's house, and then he come over. No, wait. Officer Myers left and went over to the neighbor's house, and he come back home and he said, well, the neighbors are upset with you because your dog has peed in their yard. We don't have a dog. And so then the other officer come over, and the story changed. That the neighbor said, well, I'm not sure, but I think they ran over my sprinkler head. And so that's why this fence has gone up. And we, mentioned to Officer Meyer that, in order for us to access our vehicle, we would have to touch that fence. And they're adamant if we touch it, they're calling the cops on us. And so long story short, a lot of stuff transpired. We left for the night. We come back. We were told, just ask them. They said they would remove the fence when you had to leave. So we asked them. When we come home, husband went and rang the doorbell 3 times. He knocked. It was loud enough I could hear it by our garage. And they were sitting in their backyard and wouldn't answer. And so he yells over the fence, you know, please, can you come and move this section of fence so we can get in? No, I don't have to. So my husband went and got his screw gun and removed one section of this little plastic fence so we could pull our vehicle in. And they come out, and he tells me, you have another part of your driveway, park your vehicle there. And she calls the police department on us, and she said, yes, my neighbor is destroying my fence, and he's a veteran, and I don't know what he's going to do next. And I'm like, that's profiling, and that's being prejudiced up against someone. And so we have 3 officers coming out into the Calisac. Their sirens are going. They come up. My husband's putting the last screw back in that fence that we had removed temporarily, and then he put back in. And so it's just been an ugly situation, and it's been a lot of pettiness, I believe, on the neighbor's side. It's a waste of taxpayer money for our police officers to have to come out and deal with this type of situation. And they talk to us and highly encouraged to come and talk to the city council. I talked with Officer Hill yesterday. She highly encouraged me to come tonight. And I'm asking that, because we live in an older area and the zoning was different back then, that can an ordinance be drawn up to fit this type of situation where the property lines meet at an odd section so that we can have access to our driveway and come and go and not have to beg the neighbor to take down a section of fence?
So let me ask you a question. Is the fence on their side of,
It is.
of the property line?
Right.
Okay.
So, but I mean, for a year and a half, 2 years, there's been nothing. Now all of a sudden, and it's because our dog peed in their yard, and then the story changed that we broke their sprinkler head. Well, okay, they felt like they couldn't come and talk to us. Put a note on our door. Put it in the mail. They know our address. They know our names.
Okay.
We would have been glad to replace that sprinkler head if we had been the ones to break it. But I'm feeling like this is a bullying tactic, and I'm tired of being bullied, and I'm tired of being harassed, and so I'm asking if you could please consider this and maybe help with drawing up an ordinance. That's what the police officers asked, because they see this situation all the time and their hands are tied.
Okay.
And I want to live my life there in peace. I have up until Monday night not had these kind of issues, but I'm not going to stand for being bullied.
No, we don't want anybody bullied in our city. And Camille, I appreciate you addressing us here. We'll certainly, look into this and see. There is a process that you have to go through in order to change any of the ordinance. I don't know that, without really looking at your property and understanding it, that we are prepared to comment on this. All I can say is that we'll definitely look into this.
Hearing, and you're soft-spoken.
Okay. I'll speak into the mic.
Thank you.
Okay, what I want to say is thank you for bringing this to our attention. We'll look into it. We'll have our staff research those boundary lines and make sure that the fence is properly placed. As far as changing the ordinance, that is a whole process that you have to go through. You have to fill out an application and send it through. Again, which, our folks, I'll have them reach out to you if you so choose to go that line. Quite honestly, I don't know that we have many of those type of properties left, but certainly we'll look into it for you. So thank you. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for your time, and I'm here because I was honestly ask by
Okay,
others to please come and state this.
okay, thank you very much. Okay, this is still the citizen comment portion, so if anyone else would like to comment?
Good evening. James Benzina, 2481 West, 650 North. I come here over the incident that happened in Minneapolis, and many people say it won't happen in our city. I will tell you that it could happen in our city. It happened to me at Hill Air Force Base 3 years ago. My company cleans Wells Fargos, and I had employees that could not show up to clean the Wells Fargo at Hill Air Force Base. So I said, well, I'll run up there and do it. So I go up there, there's no cars in the parking lot, the lights are off, the bank is closed. I walk in and I key in the code. And the code for the bay, up there for the alarm, is hooked to the police station instead of to Wells Fargo security back east. And I go in and I hit it and I go walk into the bank like I'm gonna walk to the back to get to do the bags and trash and clean the bathrooms and so on. And I'm walking in and all of a sudden I look at the center banker's desk and there's an employee of the bank sitting there, the assistant manager. And I go, oh shoot, I just alarmed the bank. So I ran back, punched in the code to disarm. And by that time, the bank was surrounded by military police. Phone rings inside. The young manager answers the phone. He's asked a couple questions. He doesn't have the answer to the questions. One was a security code that they're supposed to give when they're called. So he says, hang on a minute, can I just call the manager real quick? The manager answers the cell phone. She tells him what's going on. She happens to be across the street at the library where they're going to be meeting to hold a meeting with people to talk about finances. So he goes and he gives the code. Then the guy on the phone says, third letter. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. Third letter of what? And the guy says, okay, here's what I'd like you to do. He gives him his name, and he's asking for the third letter of his last name because his name is on the roster at the security police office. He doesn't have it. So he says, do me a favor. Who's in the building with you? And he tells him what happened. He says, well, I'd like you to go out back with your arms up with your DOD CAT card to get you on base up in the air. The gentleman is Latino. He goes out there, there's two cop cars, and he walks out and all of a sudden they're yelling at him to get on the ground, face down. And a sergeant who's got his pistol pointing at him, two young airmen have their M4s pointed at him, forces him onto the ground. The sergeant yells and tells the two young cops, go over there and handcuff him. So they handcuff him, pick him up off the ground, and shove him in the back of a security police car. I go walking up to the door, and they start yelling. He starts yelling at me to get back, and he's pointing his pistol at me. So I get back. Then finally they ask me to come out. I go with my retired Department of Defense card, being a retired government employee, and he tells me to get face down on the ground. I go, why? And he starts yelling at me, get on the ground. So I get down. About this time, the manager walks up from behind him and says, what are you doing? That's my employee you have in that car over there, and that's Mr. Benzina. He's in charge of our cleaning. The sergeant turns and says, if you don't shut up and get out of here, I'm going to arrest you. Needless to say, the two young cops come get me, take me over by the car, and they're scared the crap out of them, okay, themselves. They've never seen this. Needless to say, we were both released. The next day, I went and saw the commander of the security police force. He was livid to hear that this had gone down. Could not believe it. I'm asking you as city councilors and mayor, don't think that it can't happen in Layton. So I hope that you have a policy that you're going to review with the police chief to make sure that we don't have a cop that might overreact. And the worst thing is we don't have other police officers that don't stop them if they do. You're hearing it on the news today that city councilors are immediately trying to pass ordinances and stuff. So please, do not say it can't happen here, and do nothing to investigate the matter. Hopefully it will never happen here. We have some of the greatest police force, but it could happen. It happened to me at Hill Air Force Base.
Okay.
So,
Thank
and
you,
one
Mr.
other quick thing I want to talk, since I'm in the cleaning business. Please make sure that businesses and restaurants have trained their people on how to use disinfectant. You cannot spray and wipe dry. You kill nothing.
Yeah.
Okay? You must spray, let it stay wet for 3 to 5 minutes to kill what we're trying to kill. Too many places are spraying and wiping it right off. Okay?
Thank you.
So please work with the businesses.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I just want to remind you that our citizens' comments, and I don't want to cut you short by any means, but typically we go 3 minutes, but certainly if you feel you need some time,
be a quick one.
go ahead.
Steve Verstadt, 2294 East, 1200 North. I typically on a day go down to Fresh Market and run a couple miles down Fairfield. And about 7 months ago, I saw some graffiti over on the sidewalk by Smith's. And a couple days later, I went home and it said Hell on Earth, and I didn't know whether that was a gang, kiddie gang wannabe thing or whatever. But I cleaned it off. And then a couple weeks later, on the other side by McDonald's, there was another tag. I won't mention what that said, and I cleaned that off. Then a couple months ago, there's some tagging on the, I don't know whether it's Utopia or the green square cable boxes. And I've lived here for 32 years. Layton is a fabulous city to live in. And I hate to see this stuff, as I'm sure you all do the same. I'm just asking for permission to clean this stuff off when I see it. I'm sure your Public Works is as busy as can be and with budget cuts, et cetera. Just wanted to see if I do it, if it's okay.
I appreciate you doing that. And I would say that, honestly, I'd like you to just call it in, at least so that we're aware of it.
Okay.
So that our folks know what's going on, and certainly they can help assist or give you the go-ahead. But I think in each one of these, in fact, going forward, just do that. Again, thank you for what you've done in cleaning it up, because that's the last thing we want to see in our city is graffiti. And I can assure you that part of the reason why we were a little late coming out here tonight is we were covering several of these issues, including what Mr. Bensini had talked about. So.
Right.
We are trying to be proactive here and just keeping our city a good place to live and raise a family. So thank you for contributing.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you very much for your comments there. We will now move on to our consent items. These items are considered routine as nature and can be passed in a single motion. And as we go through these, we have each one of the department heads that will kind of give us the information on it. So to start out with item A, we have the bid award for post asphalt paving, and that will be presented by Mr. Terry Colburn, our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Bring before the council Resolution 2038, a bid award Post Asphalt Paving and Construction Incorporated for the West Hillfield Road sidewalk improvements along West Hillfield Road, starting at approximately 3200 west, going east for about 1900 feet. Resolution 2038 authorizes the execution of an agreement between Layton City and Post Asphalt Paving and Construction Incorporated for the West Hillfield Road Sidewalk Improvements Project. The project includes the installation of sidewalk and road base and replacement of field fence. 7 bids were received, with Post Asphalt Paving and Construction Incorporated submitting the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $64,225. The engineer's estimate was $90,000. Staff recommends the council adopt Resolution 2038.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions regarding this item? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. We'll go on to item B, which is the approval of a First Amendment or an interlocal agreement, better known as. So our city attorney, Mr. Gary Crane, will present that to us.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Resolution 20-39 is a resolution adopting and approving the first amended and restated interlocal agreement between Layton City and IRMA, which is Utah Risk Management Association. There are a few minor changes in the agreement. Probably the major change is just the change of the name, and as we indicated in work meeting, that came about as a result in state law, change in state law, where they indicated that mutual associations had to have a certain structure to them. IRMA is not a mutual association according to state law, and so they changed that in the bylaws. Earlier, I think it was Councilman Day asked whether or not it should have been redlined and struck out. And I've got the section numbers if you want to know which ones have changed. But let me just give you a real quick summary, just going down.
Please.
Number one, there's a change that indicated that the board could make small changes to the agreement from now on. We don't need to bring everything back to all 20-some cities that are involved in the Utah Risk Management Association. Then some of the other small things, bonding for employees, they really wanted to relate that directly back to state law. State law has governed that now, who needs to be bonded for and who does not. There was a section inadvertently left out regarding how the organization would terminate. That was put back in. And then open meetings and grandma. This agreement has not changed since 1985. This is the First Amendment since 1985. So there are a few changes that had to be made, and which tells you how durable this organization has been. It has really been a great protection for the city when it comes to managing our risk and covering our risk whenever we come across situations. You saw just recently how much risk a city really has. When you look at what happened in Salt Lake, you look at what happened in Ogden, there's a lot that the city has to guard against, and it's not possible to guard against everything, and that's the reason we have IRMA. So with that, if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you regarding the agreement and the changes. They are minor changes. I guess I should apologize for bringing minor changes back, but after these changes are made, we won't need to do that anymore. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Okay, we'll move on to item number C. Tim Watkins will be presenting actually C and D. So Tim, just go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. For your consideration is this picks it up? Thank you. For your consideration this evening is the proposed amended plat for the Pinehurst Place Phase 2C. And this subdivision is located at about 1587 West, 475 North. And here is an image of the neighborhood. You can see the lot highlighted that is proposed for amendment. This lot is an open space lot, but not by requirement. It is a temporary open space designation as we look at the next image. And then the following image, we see that you see the circle is a temporary turnaround easement. And until that temporary easement is removed, there is not sufficient space to construct a home. And so the applicant is seeking to change the turnaround from a round turnaround to a hammerhead easement, as shown in the next image, the amended plat here, which would be a second easement, a separate easement or drive access easement to allow for fire truck and other large trucks to turn around on the property. And this would allow for the construction of a home. And then at some future point, the street right-of-way could continue. And so staff's in support of the Planning Commission recommendation. They unanimously recommend the council approve the subdivision amendment.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Tim. So in other words, they're going to have two driveways, one to their garage and then this one?
Yeah, it would be
This one won't be a full driveway, but it'll come in so far and then,
And restricted in that they cannot park on that driveway, and it'd likely not be paved with a hard surface, but more of a road base that future point could be replanted and landscaped.
but it will have to be, according to your notes, marked, red marked, no parking. And it's part of their yard then.
That's correct.
So Tim, I don't know if you can do it with the mouse on the, but I always think of a hammerhead as being kind of a T shape. So can you explain to me where, I see the circle, but where's the hammerhead?
Thank you for the question. So you see the T would be more of an L shape. Well, excuse me, a
Okay.
T indeed. So the public right-of-way is the T, and then the stem is the small rectangle pointing down.
Okay, and that's enough of a turn for one of our big fire trucks?
That's correct. It's sized for that
Okay.
function.
And then it mentions in here that it almost kind of alluded to the fact that the homeowner was responsible for the snow. But with this, will our public works be aware of where they can't dump the snow, where this is a dead end right now? They'll be the one plowing the street, not the homeowner. So where will they place the snow so it's not in the red zone, it's not in the no parking zone, not left, it's in the middle of the street so the fire truck can't turn around?
Yeah, I would think that's part of the marking requirement, and then my understanding has just been reviewed by all departments, and that there's a comfort level to accommodate any maintenance and snow removal.
Okay, I just know in cul-de-sacs that a lot of times it's shoved and left and builds up, and I don't see that there's space here for that to happen and still meet the turnaround, so. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
just have
just
to
my
go with
concern.
the department and recommendations.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go on to item D then, which is the Layton Park Estates.
Thank you. So this item is another plat amendment request for the Layton Park Estates Phase 1, which is located just south of Layton Parkway and north of 1000 South. And these are two lots that have homes being built on them or recently built. And the homeowners have requested to purchase some remnant property from the Redford annexation, which is the area to the east of the Layton Park Estates subdivision, which is former drive access for farm field access, and this area is not really usable, otherwise usable or buildable, and so these owners have proposed to purchase, and in so doing, to expand their lot size, a plat amendment is needed, and here is the adjusted lots with the additional 24 and a half or so feet. Again,
Council,
this
any
is recommended for approval by the Planning Commission unanimously, and staff supports the recommendation.
Okay, so this is a second amendment to this subdivision. What about the two lots that are to the south, north?
Yeah, that's a good question. And these lots, if they were interested in the property is usable for the subdivision that will go in the Redford annexation. And so there's not a desire necessarily to sell any property to the lots south of these two proposed for amendment, if I understood your question correctly.
Okay, but in the future, if they did want to, then it would be another amendment to
That's correct.
It wouldn't just blanket cover it.
But it is anticipated that the property, that narrow strip, would be usable and platted into lots in the new subdivision that would come in the Redford annexation.
Okay, any other questions, council? Okay, thank you, Tim. Okay, that brings our consent items. We've gone through all of those now, so council, I'll look for a motion regarding our consent items.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent items reviewed this evening. Consent item A, the bid award, which is Resolution 2038. Item B, the approval of the first amended IRMA, Resolution 2039. C, the amended plat for Pinehurst Place, and item D, the amended plat for the Layton Park Estates.
There a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now move on to our public hearing portion of our meeting. The first item that will be presented will be by Tim. In fact, Tim will have the next two items, but Tim, do you want to walk us through our first item regarding the Layton Municipal Code?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And Council, for your consideration this evening is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, specifically Title 19, Chapter 1906, the section related to farm animals in 1906-080. And this is a citizen application to amend the code by Kelly Morris and Jason Edwards. And in summary, the request is to amend the current code, which is summarized on the left, to the proposed amendments on the right column. The current code allows for a maximum of 6 chickens allowed in R16, R18, R110, and RS zone districts on lots that are at least 10,000 square feet, and no roosters allowed. In the agricultural zone, a greater number of chickens and ducks are allowed based on the lot size. And so, for example, 25 chickens and 10 ducks would be allowed per 20,000 square feet, and roosters are allowed in the agricultural zone. Another example is a 1 acre lot would allow for 50 chickens and 20 ducks, total of 70 birds. The proposed code amendment would be that chickens and ducks, not just chickens, would be allowed in the R1 and the RS zone districts on lots with a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet. No roosters again in R1 and RS districts. But in this case, the maximum numbers of chickens or ducks or combination of birds would be limited to a maximum of 5 birds, again on a minimum 8,000 square foot lot. Some changes in the proposed changes in the ag zone would be a formula based on the square foot per bird relative to the lot, and that would yield 17 chickens or 17 ducks or combination capped at 17 per 20,000 square foot lot. And again, in the agricultural zone, or example on a 1 acre lot would be a combination of 44 chickens or ducks, one or the other. This diagram shows how a rear yard could accommodate the required pen. 120 square foot pen, for example, with a 5 foot setback is shown. In this case, for keeping ducks, a water source would be required, such as a small kiddie pool. And then there'd be a required 6 foot setback from any existing structure or accessory structure. So during the work meeting, the council discussed the potential for a larger coop or pen enclosure for birds to perhaps limit the size, a maximum size. And so our analysis of this that you might consider as a potential modification to this ordinance based on the draft recommended by the Planning Commission would be applicable to lots over 20,000 square feet. And so, for example, if on the higher end of the recommended enclosure space for chickens and ducks, that would on a 20,000 square foot lot allow for 17 birds per the proposed ordinance, or roughly 340 square feet, which is just under 19 feet square. Another example on a 1 acre lot, which would allow for 44 birds, would yield a 880 square foot structure, about 30 by 30. Could be slightly larger than this, or about in this range would be a healthy amount of space for chickens and ducks. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any further questions. Failed to mention, Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this ordinance amendment. Thank you.
Okay, council, this is a public hearing, so we can open it up. We can have discussion and accept public comment as well. So do any of you have any questions to begin with?
No, but thank you, Tim.
Okay.
That was fast work.
Okay, I'll need a motion to open up the public hearing specifically for the item A of our public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing to amend the Layton Municipal Code Title 19 regarding chicken and ducks residential.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, so if there's anybody in the audience that would like to make a comment regarding the item that was just presented, you're welcome to step to the mics, state your name and address for the record, and give us your opinion.
My name is Kelly Morse, and I'm at 1092 East 255 South in Layton. And hi again. So we're full circle. And so I think they've presented pretty well what we want to do. I think I'm just here in case you have other questions or things that you want to know, since I am more versed at owning and having ducks, knowing particulars if anybody's got questions or concerns. But, you know, largely we're excited about their recommendation that we have be allowed on a slightly smaller lot size and allow ducks the same way as chickens. I didn't recognize, and this might be a question for you, if it specified that they're domestic ducks or not. Doesn't entirely matter to me, but I know one of the concerns was about flight. And so, you know, if they're supposed to stay in the enclosure, it may not matter, but I don't know if that's something you might want for logistics.
So a duck's not a duck is what you're trying to tell us.
Right. The ones over there, like, yeah, ours can't get into your yard very good. Ours are not flying anywhere.
Right.
That's correct. It is for domestic ducks.
Okay, cool. But no, I'm excited about it. I'm just here showing my support and excitement, and if anybody has any questions about anything.
I don't, but I have a comment to tell you.
Yes.
Thank you, because this is how citizens get involved and how things happen, and that's a really good thing. So for those of you that may not have known, but she's the one that brought the idea for the ordinance to us on a request, and that's how it works, and thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, does anybody else have any comments? Okay, seeing there's none. Anybody else from the audience? Okay, then council, I'll look for us to close the public hearing and vote on item A to amend our municipal code.
Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we approve, first of all, close the public hearing and approve ordinance 2014 allowing for the keeping of ducks as specified, without the modifications to the pen size.
Without?
Without.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second on that. Being that is there any discussion?
Yeah, define what you mean.
Well, Tim just barely brought up these potential modifications to limit the pen size. I don't think they're necessary. I think it's just the way it was written to originally.
Oh, okay.
Without any pen size problems on that bigger lot.
Hey, anyone else have a question on it? Okay, being that we have a motion and a second, I will now take a roll call vote, being that this is a public hearing. So I will start with Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman Bloxham. Aye. Councilman Fitzpatrick.
And I hate to do this to you, Kelly, but I'm going to say no. And the reason being is I firmly believe that there needs to be a maximum pen size on the RS slots.
Okay. Councilman Morse.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Okay, that stands. The vote is 5-1, so that does pass. 4-1, excuse me. So we'll now move on to item B. Again, Mr. Tim Watkins will present that item. It's regarding a rezone request.
Thank you, Mayor. And council members, also for your consideration is a land use item that is a general plan future land use map amendment and a rezone request for property located at 2420 North University Park Boulevard. Here's the property highlighted along University Park Boulevard, which is also known as 1200 West. The property is in an interesting area right on the boundary of Layton and Clearfield, west boundary. The property is about 1.13 acres and has a canal easement for the Davis Weaver Canal Company. And here's the Layton Forward General Plan Future Land Use Map, and you see the property circled in context of the surrounding area. As the general plan process was taking place over the past couple of years and then adopted in September of 2019, this general area was viewed as generally completely built out or master planned where the Weaver State Davis campus is located. And this small of a lot really didn't jump out in terms of needing attention compared to the rest of the city for a broad look at the general plan land uses. And this general plan amendment request gives us the opportunity to study this parcel relative to the surrounding existing uses and relative to future growth in Clearfield City on the west side of Layton Parkway. The requested land use change is from community residential, which is a single-family residential designation, to transitional residential, which is defined as live-work townhomes and may also include detached single-family twin homes or patio homes. These housing types are intended to establish a buffer and transition between intensive land uses or intensive street conditions and lower density single-family residential areas. A little closer look at the site and surrounding context. We see the existing intensity of a collector street of 12th West that will continue to intensify as the commercial land uses build out in Clearfield City, as well as future multifamily to the north of this vacant property. You also see the existing multifamily use in Clearfield on the west side of 12th West. These yellow points and arrows relate to photos that I'll show of diverse property uses reflecting a range of an array of uses. Here's the canal prior to it being piped, the easement on the applicant's property, and then to the south of the property is the existing church. Further south along 12th West is the professional business plaza, and then to the east is an R16 planned residential unit development that includes single-family detached and, attached twin homes. And then further north from the site in Clearfield, we see the single-family residential and multifamily residential. And here is some of the vacant property that is anticipated to build out on the Clearfield side and further south on the Layton side as well. There's also a planned street connection from Clearfield to 12th West. The shape of this property is an important consideration in that its triangular shape really doesn't lend itself to the larger spacing requirements and lot configurations for single-family homes, and it's easier to fit more adaptable, smaller townhome footprints in this type of property, in addition to the consideration of the buffer and transition from intensive uses to less intensive uses, in addition to a planned future trail that can serve as part of the buffer and transition. Some comments were received from the Davis Weaver Canal Company suggesting that there be coordination related to future fence maintenance, matching grades, and recording the plat with a canal easement with the Davis County Recorder's Office. Planning Commission reviewed this item on May 12th and unanimously recommends that the City Council approve the general future land use map amendment from community residential to transitional residential, and to also approve the rezone request from agriculture to CTH or condominium townhouse. And this recommendation is based on consistency with the general plan definition of the transitional residential land use as an appropriate land use recommendation for this property. And staff supports the Planning Commission recommendation. Please respond to any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Okay, Council, this is a public hearing. We can actually ask questions before we open it up, so do you have any questions?
Yeah. On the water, have we tested it? Like, what's the word I want?
Water table level?
Water table.
You know, that will, the next step would be, following if this were approved for general plan amendment and rezone, would be to move closer towards development, and as part of a development application, a geotechnical study and testing of the soil, and including the groundwater depth, would be required. So it'd be interesting to find out after the canal's been piped what the
Okay.
groundwater depth
So we
is.
still got to come back and say,
Yep.
after all this has gone through, this is what they want to do, and we approve it or don't.
That's correct.
Okay.
It'll be studied as part of the site plan approval or plating process.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll look for a motion to open the public hearing regarding the rezone request at
Yeah.
2430 North.
I make a motion that we approve. Where are we
Open.
looking at? Ordinance 20-09 and 2010?
Just open the public hearing.
Sorry,
That's okay.
it's okay. I got to be home by 9.
Okay, so I think Councilman Thomas opened our public hearing. So again, this is public. I do need a second here, sorry.
You got it. Right here.
Okay, so the public hearing is now open regarding the general amendment rezone request. So if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor or against this, please come to the mic, state your name and your address for the record. So the floor is now yours. Okay, seeing that there's no public comment on this, Council, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing. Okay,
I make a motion we close the public hearing.
and
Oh, can I go ahead? I didn't.
now you can make your
Can
motion
you put
either
that
to.
up there so I can just read everything
Certainly.
right and get it
And
done
Mayor,
one
if I may
time?
provide a point of clarification that I failed to
Yeah.
include in the presentation. Just to clarify, since the work meeting, we clarified that a fence is required between townhomes and a single-family use, not a public utility use. So a fence is required between single-family and condo townhouse. The location of the fence, we believe, could be discussed with the applicant and find the appropriate balance and a transition from trail to the development.
Okay,
So you're looking for,
I'm just kidding, if you were looking for what I'm asking for.
okay, so let me bring this, this meeting back to order here. So basically, I'm looking for a motion now to close your public hearing and either adopt or reject the general plan amendment rezone request. Would anybody like to make that motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing and we adopt general plan amendment and rezone request, ordinance 2009 and 2010 as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So again, since this is a public hearing, we'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilman Bloxham.
Aye.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Okay, that is unanimous. I can count that one. Now, we can move on to item number 3. Thank you, Mr. Watkins, for presenting both those items to us. So item C is our budget for the fiscal year 2020. That will be presented by our Finance Director, Tracy Probert.
Mayor, members of the council, tonight we're scheduled to hold a public hearing for the 2020-2021 budget. Say that fast a few times. The total budget that's proposed, the tentative budget has been out there since May 7th for review by the public, $102,236,171. General fund budget, $36,778,698. Of the total budget, $34.5 million for personnel, $29 million for operations, $2.3 million for equipment, $17 million in projects, $3.2 million in debt service. And tonight, as I mentioned, is the time to accept public comment regarding this budget. And then we intend to bring an ordinance forward on June 18th to adopt that budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, do you have any questions before we open up the public hearing here?
Just one procedural question, as I don't know. If there's something that's brought up by the public and we talk about, we just say, oh yeah, we should consider that. but the next meeting, we're talking about adopting the final budget. What happens between those times if we want to change it once again before the adoption of the final budget?
I believe you'd
On the
bring those
18th.
proposals to the mayor, and she could bring them to staff, and then we could adjust the budget accordingly. You could call a special meeting for any time between now and the 18th to discuss those changes if the council and mayor thought that was appropriate. We could also, if they were simple, discuss them in the work meeting beforehand, and just as we present the ordinance for adoption, we would present that with modifications.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I need a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing for the budget.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So, again, this is the public's time to make a comment regarding our budget. We'd ask that you come to either one of the mics, state your name and your address for the record, and give us your opinion or suggestion.
Nate Worthen, 256 North, 3300 West in Layton. I guess, of course, it's in Layton, right? Page 12 of the proposed budget document. One of the line items is street lighting fee. So 2018-19 revenue, and then 2019-2020 estimated revenue is about a 10% increase. And then in 2020-2021, it jumps by almost $300,000. Is that due to a street lighting fee increase?
Yes, that is.
What's the amount of that increase?
Street lighting increase proposed in the budget is $2 per residence, or $2 per equivalent residential unit. So right now the fee's $2, and it would go to $4.
Okay, so I don't understand that terminology, Tracy. So $2 per residential parcel?
Yes.
So how is an apartment building billed?
So an apartment building is based on equivalent residential unit and its street frontage. And so you pay for, if the apartment building runs for a block, I think it's 60 linear feet. I'd have to come up with the actual number. But for every 60 linear feet of frontage that you have on the road, then you're charged.
And commercial properties are
So
charged?
it wouldn't be per unit. It would be
Right.
frontage.
Okay. And how about commercial properties?
And commercial's frontage as well. So if
Okay.
you have a large car dealership out on Main Street, we measure the frontage all the way around that car dealership if they have side streets, and they pay based on 60 linear feet of frontage.
Okay. I feel like is this in perpetuity, so it's a perpetual fee increase? It's a $2 raise this year that would continue on in the future?
Yes.
Okay. And tax exempt properties, are they included as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone with frontage.
Got it. Okay. So, thank you for that. I didn't understand all of that. On August 22nd, 2019, when the special meeting for the tax increase was held, Councilmember Day proposed the following motion. Adopt the budget with a 17% tax increase and eliminate the proposed $1 street lighting fee. Now, here we are a few months later, and it feels like a retrade. The street lighting has to happen, and $1 was great last year. It kind of feels like we just deferred the dollar increase and said, let's make it $2. We missed out on last year's $1, so let's make it $2 after we already got penalized with this. Penalized is a harsh word. We already had a 17% property tax increase, and I think Councilmember Day said, hey, I know it's tough, let's withdraw that street lighting fee, and now it's back and it's double. Anyway, I'm opposed to the street lighting fee as proposed. I think $1 makes sense. I think $2 is a bit of a jump, and I think it feels like a deferment from last year as opposed to maybe, we would have gone for $1 last year, but we didn't get it, so now we'll go for $2. lastly, I'd say this, we got to improve the street lighting. So how do we do that? Where does the money come from? The street lighting fee makes a lot of sense. And so I thought, I was been thinking about this over the past couple of days, and I thought, I wonder if I can find some money that Layton doesn't have. So I found it. I didn't find a lot, but I found some. I spent 35 minutes, and I found $1,000 that Layton City can claim in less than an hour. Number one, Layton City Police Department owed nearly $500 from the Department of Corrections, property ID number 3649471. Layton Fire Department and Ambulance owed almost $500 from United Healthcare Insurance Company, property ID 2703189. Layton City Parks Department owed $25.84 from MSC Industrial Direct Company Incorporated, property ID 5537260. Layton City Business Licensing, $160 from the University of Utah, property ID 5149181. My concern is this: if in 35 minutes I can find over $1,000 that the city's owed and could claim essentially instantly, is staff and council doing enough to look for money that we don't need to charge back to the citizens? We're having a hard time. We have senior citizens, we have veterans on fixed incomes. $2 is not a lot of money, but every dollar matters to this community, and I wonder if that should be rethought. And let's look a little harder at that budget, try to find some money, and maybe we can go with a $1 increase instead of $2 and readdress it next year. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Nate, for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on behalf of our budget proposal? Okay, seeing that there's none, council, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing, and
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing regarding our budget for fiscal year 2020, 20-21. I'll take a roll call vote on that. Councilman Day?
Yes.
Councilman Bloxham?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzpatrick? Aye. Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay, that passes unanimously. So as stated earlier, that's our proposed budget, and we'll do a final adoption of the budget at our next meeting, which will be June 18th. We'll certainly take the items that have been brought before us into consideration. If we feel like we need to have a further discussion, then I'll certainly entertain that. That actually brings our meeting to a close. However, we do have an additional item that we need to go into a closed-door meeting, so I will look for a motion to close our council meeting for tonight and go into a closed-door meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for all those that attended our council meeting tonight. And be safe.